Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and in this video I want to talk about class trait points in The Lord of the Rings Online. The gameplay in the background will be a mix of classes, but I will include a section on my Hunter's live commentary who really highlights the issue that I will eventually get to in this video. So the idea of the class trait points problem is one I have had for a video for a really long time. In fact, I actually had a full video recorded on this before my YouTube break, but never got around to editing it. And even before that, we'll just say it was a long time coming, unfortunately. But on this point, this style of video could perhaps become a loose series of videos on my channel, but it is actually kind of odd because I also recently made that negativity and positivity video with LOTRO. So with that in mind, the idea of this video isn't to be entirely negative, but to offer feedback for the game in hopes that LOTRO can, well, be the best LOTRO possible. But if you all have input on seeing more videos like this, do let me know. Anyway, back on topic for this video, thinking positively, I love the class trait system. I like having a good mix of base skills for my class and at the same time being able to specialize to become more advanced and have more focused skills in like a particular area. I also like having trait trees and being able to smoothly progress in those as I level up. It is much like the old World of Warcraft system that I preferred in that game before they did some very bad things to it, we'll say. But it's also similar to Rift. But the class trait system in LOTRO I think is successful overall and makes me feel like my character is actually advancing as I level up and things. Now there are a few issues with the system of like class traits as a whole, but the biggest problem that I think faces the entire class trait system in LOTRO is with the class trait points. And to be honest, I think it is one of the biggest issues in the entire game in terms of character progression. Now, before we talk about the class trait point issue specifically, I do want to mention that there are other things that I do not like about the class trait system that could also be improved upon, and I think it's pretty important to get this context within this video. But after finishing out your main spec in the trait tree, it feels like there is a big loss of progression, really. Actually, maybe I'm planning for this to be another video, but the general idea here is that at higher levels and when you have a lot of trait points, you just feel unrewarded and like you really aren't progressing anymore, at least to me. So now progressing slowly I don't think is necessarily a problem, but feeling like you aren't pushing progress into your own spec that you chose for your character is at least like a little bit to me. And another issue that the system faces, which is honestly a little bit of a personal complaint that I just want to share, is that you only get 2 free sets of specs for free while every class has 3 trait trees. I think this is okay that it is just like a base thing, and for free to play isn't too bad. It's even for them nice that you get to. But as a VIP subscriber, I think subscribers like us should get a 3rd one for free, or at least part of the subscription, because spending 100 mythril coins on that per character is actually a bit infuriating to me. But I'll digress from that to finally get to our topic problem for this video. So again, this video is going to be a bit more negative than I usually am with my channel in general, but I really can only hope this shines light on the issue a bit more and maybe does help enact some positive changes in the game. And this is a topic with the class trait points. It's a topic that I have seen come up a lot, and oddly enough over my YouTube break I got a ton of comments randomly about the class like trait point issue and all that is wrong with it. But anyway, the big class trait point problem that I keep talking about and never saying what it is I think that the way you get class trait points in LOTRO is really a horrible part of the whole system and just a huge core issue of character building in LOTRO. So for anyone unfamiliar with this, let's go ahead and just list out all the ways you can get class trait points in LOTRO. And I do want to give a quick shout out to the LOTRO wiki for making a really nice table with this for this kind of frustrating system. But as of update 27, you can get 96 total trait points, I believe. And this is how. So the first way is from leveling. You get 1 trait point for every odd level from level 7 to 105, and then some more after that at 108, 111, 114, and 120. And to quickly note, I do not find this to be a problem in general, but the inconsistency at high levels is annoying at least. And then the second way is from class quests and deeds. You get 8 from meta deeds to use certain skills so many times. You also get 3 from completing the legendary books available starting at level 39. And then you also get 1 from your level 45 and 58 class quest chains. And to note, Bayordering, I get, I believe, 2 extra from class quests early on while losing out 2 from other areas, but they get overall the same amount. Just wanted to note that. And the third way is from reputation. You can get 1 point from an item purchased from the Iron Garrison Guard's reputation in Moria, requiring you to have kindred reputation. The fourth way is from book quests. You can get 1 point from the deed to complete all of the Mines of Moria book quests, so that's also a deed, a different way. And 1 from chapter 4 in Eastern Gondor. Then there are a lot from volume 4 that you can get. I believe those are associated with Helm's Deep, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, there are finally a few more with book quests with the Black Book of Mordor, and most recently there's also 1 from the Great Wedding. On top of that, the fifth way is you can get 5 points from West Rohan quest chains, so from just regular quests, and 4 from Central Gondor quest chains. And the sixth way is from the Anorian deeds. You both have quests and deeds of Old Anorian, which each give you a trait point. And the seventh and final way I have on the list here is you can get 2 clash trait points for a total of 200 promotion points, and those are the epic battle progression points. But the idea here is that is a lot of things you need to do to get your clash trait points. And to me, getting trait points from leveling is no problem at all, and in fact it makes perfect sense. But we get into this issue when you have to do all the other things to get a lot, like a ton of these trait points that are very, very essential to your character and its progression. And this is the problem. I really do not like to have to do all these different things to get my trait points to make my character build better and more viable. For some players, I will say this could be a complete non-issue though. If you have like your endgame character where you went through all the quests in the game or something like that, you will have your clash trait points and probably not even think about that system too negatively. Again, another reason to this video for people maybe unfamiliar with that. But for me, I play a ton of alts personally, and honestly it comes down to feeling forced to do very specific content in order for my character to be viable and get their core progression. So I really believe doing book quests and specific quest chains in Moria, Gondor, Rohan, Anorian, etc. with all those places should not be required for my character to progress. At times this single system has been so frustrating, in fact, to me, that at periods it has made me want to entirely up and quit LOTRO, which is really crazy. On a lot of my characters on Arkenstone, I didn't care for doing these specific things while leveling, so now I am stuck without my trait points and basically forever gimped characters, unless I go back and spend a lot of time doing old, way old and low level content, and honestly just irrelevant content to get them back in shape. I find the class meta deeds and even book pages to be less of an issue because they are much easier to do and do not involve all too much. But even with them, they are a frustrating way to get trait points, especially when some classes have insane class deeds for these Runekeepers. I know they have these do not fall 5-minute cooldown skill 250 times. But out of all the non-leveling options, I will say these are unfortunately the best we have. On the legendary servers for a long time with the lower level caps with Mirkwood, even Isengard and Moria and Shadows of Ingmar, I was basically never missing out on any trait points except until more recently, now that Helm's Deep and West Rohan exist. That is another big reason I have played on the legendary servers so much in the past, and on my channel I'm still playing on them, but one reason I was dreading the servers going into Helm's Deep content and kind of past that was because of the clash trait point issue. And if I'm dreading the release of these new in quote because it's just on the legendary servers, but the new content updates on the servers coming out for the game, why should I even bother playing it? So really, I can keep on repeating that having to get trait points like this is bad in different words and how it drives me away from LOTRO. But to give you all a little bit more context, let's move in-game to my hunter on Arkenstone, who, as I mentioned, highlights this issue. So as I think I talked about, my hunter has not done a lot of the specific content you need to do to get clash trait points, so I only have 52 trait points even though I'm level 112, and like in Mordor here, I haven't done the Anorian, Gondor, and West Rohan stuff on this character. And that's part of the frustration that I don't have my clash trait points just because I didn't do those specific areas. But I think Hunter really highlights the issue because no matter what build, what spec you're in, you're always going to be wanting more trait points, because if I wanted to go like in the red line as my blue line spec Hunter, I could get a bunch of improvements like reduced skill inductions, burn hot is a big one I could get at higher level, mitigation bypass for just bow attacks, just things like that. These are examples of things that really affect gameplay and would greatly improve my character's performance and make like going through content much more exciting if I actually had my trait points, if I wasn't like feeling forced to go back and do that again, irrelevant feeling content just because I decided to not level through those zones and do different things in those specific quests to level. And even if I spec into the red line, just my other trait spec here, it has the same issue. There are a ton of things like in the blue line that would be impactful to my gameplay and make my experience on the red line way better. And it's also even true with the yellow line. I know that's a less popular spec, but getting things in this trait tree would be helpful, and it's really just a thing I think Hunter really shows the issue. I don't really have any gameplay to do here. I just wanted to open the trait panel and show that. As you've probably seen in the background gameplay on this Hunter, some things don't go too well and can go a lot better basically if I had the clash trait points, and if I just got them naturally from leveling is basically the point. But anyway, getting back to the regular part of the commentary, as we kind of saw with my hunter, as I was mentioning, she could be a lot stronger with more clash trait points, which, you know, is expected, but because of the trait points issue of being forced to do specific old things, that I do not have those trait points, so my hunter is really weak. And this can apply to other players in other classes as well. Like I know redline DPS wardens are not nearly as strong as they could be if they don't have the plus 20% light damage trait from the blue line, just for another specific example, just because I'm really familiar with that class. But there are a lot of other classes and a lot of other specs where this type of stuff is true, and just having more points, just more help, more better for your character, and that really is again expected. But to quickly recap, we now know about the issue of needing to do very specific, and at least to me, very annoying things to get the trait points to really build my character. So the reason this is important again is because it affects the core system to build your character and progress it by forcing you to do all these other things than just like level up to get your trait points, again, the core character progression points essentially. So I don't want to do a video with all this criticizing without some suggestions on how to fix the issue for positive change and betterment of the entire system. So I have a lot to go on about here, but we'll keep it pretty simple and short for the end of this video. But the easiest solution I can offer, which is just a band-aid, but it is giving us a cap on clash trait points of something like 90. I believe right now it's actually 95, but just something around there, even 95. But then offer many, and like going on forever, many more ways to get trait points. And maybe this could even be every level you get a trait point, so all the extra stuff just lets you get to the cap faster. Something even crazy like that would be a quick band-aid type fix, even if it's not like an ideal solution. And one benefit this would have is making getting points itself a non-issue at like all, if you can get a ton, but that there's an actual cap of how many you can use, so it doesn't really matter too much at some point. But it also does limit the number of trait points you can use to help kind of cap character power, again similar to what they have right now. But again, I don't think this would be like an ideal permanent solution. So the next one I suggest is to remove every single clash trait point from sources other than leveling, and change how many points you get while leveling to be balanced towards the total amount of like trait points you can get now, just to keep the relative balance of characters. So the way this could work is maybe for like level 60 to 130 or something, like around that general range or so, you can now get a trait point every level. And that would be nice because at that point you get less progress in your trait tree in general and you start like dipping into your other lines. So now you get like more trait points, so it somewhat makes up for it. And I think this is actually a fairly straightforward and relatively easy fix, and that's why it may be optimal, even if it, to me, wouldn't be quite ideal, just the inconsistency in getting trait points every other level for a while and then suddenly it's like every level. But the next suggestion I have is much more in-depth and would work also with my recommendation to change class trait trees in general. To touch back earlier on this video, I gave some context about some of the issues I had with sense of progression being lost at high levels with the class trait trees, and this would also work to fix that. But for the class trait points problem, I would actually potentially split your trait points into 2 points. Although this step isn't actually necessary, and for simplicity you wouldn't even need to make 2 different type of points, but the idea here is you'd have one set of points for your main spec or a line you're actually built into, the one you choose at the very beginning of the trait panel, and then there'd be another set for traits and other trees, and you can only use the other set for the traits in the other tree. So like a red line spec hunter could only put those points in the blue and yellow line. But the point is, I like this idea because it can limit what you can put into the other specs while still allowing you to put points in the other specs, so you don't basically become a hybrid red and blue line hunter like maybe you would have now. But the way this could work, I think, is every odd level you get a main tree point, kind of similar to now, but every 5 levels you get an off-spec tree point, and again, no other ways to earn points, so it's all based on leveling, so you won't have the issues described in this video. But with this, I think they would have to expand the class trait trees from what they are now, which is definitely not a problem, and I think almost needs to be done anyway, again with the lack of progression it seems like you get at very high level. But that is where, again, this connects to the progression at higher levels, and by expanding the trees, this allows you to continue to progress in your spec you chose at higher levels. They could also offer some like new exciting set bonuses that actually affect your character at high levels, so you now have stuff to like look forward to as you continue to level up. Even if you are high level, again, at high level, it's usually just dumping points in some of the other trees. And I think they could even do this without the 2 set of trait points for simplicity, but maybe at like some of the very deep rows in the trait trees. I think this is even similar to the promotion points in epic battles, but I'm not too familiar with that system to say for sure. But the idea is it can maybe take like 2 to 5 trait points per trait in your main trait tree. And with that system, it may encourage some of the off-spec building if they do expand the trait trees in general. And that is by no means a problem. Putting points into an off-spec is a good thing, I think. Just a little bit, but really to get the valuable stuff in your main spec, you will have to cough up a few more points. So that third idea, the last one I had there, was more complex, but I think it is a good point to leave the suggestions for this video. Again, I'm really just offering some feedback on potential changes that could maybe work, because again, don't want to just like criticize things and not have any suggestion for ways that it could be fixed, because that wouldn't be too effective. But really, to summarize just, I guess, this video again, I think the core issue here is that getting class trait points from sources other than leveling is just not fun, and even having other sources than just leveling may not be an entirely horrible system depending how it is implemented. The current sources they have now are just not good. So that is really it for this video. Again, I hope this sheds light on the issue and that people agree with me. But please do let me know in the comments what you think of this problem in general, or if you even think it's not a problem. As I mentioned earlier, some players might not find it that. Anyway, I hope you all did enjoy this video and perhaps learned something useful from it. But if you did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or joining my channel as a member, and thanks for watching, everyone.